Hi, everybody, and welcome to Katrina Rasbold and Friends. And as I always say, I know the coolest people, and I want you to know the coolest people too. Now, some of the people that I know, you're already going to know because they're awesome authors or they're amazing bloggers. And so you will have heard the name or know them. And one of them is my guest today, Gina Cole. And it's been one of my friends since. Now I'm gonna show how old I am and say that I'm not sure when this happened. I want to say it was about 10 years ago, but you had a contest on Facebook for naming your coven, I think it was. And I won that contest, and I got a wand that burned down in my house. Unfortunately, I missed that one. But I think that's where we officially kind of met, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, we'd been friends on Facebook a little bit before then, but yes, that was pretty much it, where we cemented our interaction, I guess. And that wand was unique because it was not mesquite, some mesquite or something like that, and it had these amazing little divots in
Oh, it was wonderful.
in. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I remember that.
It was one of 1,000 things that I wish I had grabbed in the mad dash out the door that didn't make it. I've often said, what was that like? Because there were so many magical things in that house over 20 years, it's like a museum. When that hit fire, what happened?
What did that release?
And what happened to the property across the street where I buried all my spell jars?
Yeah, horror.
But boom. Eric said that it was like on Ghostbusters when they turned off the containment unit.
Right? Yeah, it probably was.
Right on. So, what I would like to have happen now, I cringe when I'm being interviewed by somebody and they read one of my old biographies. That's from 10 years ago. And I thought, if you were going to do a biography, I wish you would have asked me for updates and stuff. Because, they'll pick up a book that I wrote in like 1912 or something and start reading what happened. So what I like to do is to ask my guests, who are you? What do you do? And then we go into the 8 questions. And I'll also add things that you didn't say. So go ahead.
Who am I and what do I do? Sometimes I sarcastically and jokingly say I make people cry for a living. It's because I help people get really into their stuff and clear that stuff up so that their magic and their craft can be a better product for them, But I write. I'm a freelance writer. Not currently writing for any magazines or anything because I'm in the process of beginning to write for myself. And we'll talk more about that later, probably. And I'm just kind of, since the death of my husband, I'm reshaping my life. Reshaping the foundation of my life, the foundational things, my home life, my finances, and things like that. So currently I'm not super active in the pagan community, but certainly have been in the past.
So your husband died recently.
It has been a year and 3 months or so.
It wasn't too far back. And, it's in your case, I'm not going to go heavily into this, but in your case, because he was ill for a while before.
Yes.
So there's that stress on top of the actual death. So one of the guests I'm going to be having on is Nicole Parker Adams, who is a death counselor. Was one of the things that she does. And her wife, Nikki, took her own life several years ago. And she, as a therapist, realized how unbelievably ill-equipped mental health professionals are to deal with grief, even though that is so much a part of our life.
Mm-hmm. I'm very fortunate to have a therapist that really understands grief right now.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really in fact all but left the business because of how difficult it was to get good
Oh,
help.
yeah. In fact, that's one of the things I'm going to be adding to my current body of writing, which is on empaths, because my husband Michael was an empath. I'm an empath. And so you have two empaths living in the same house, and one of them is sick and passing. And then there's this whole cadre of things that occur for an empath. And I'm a retired master's in social work. Um, that occur that people haven't talked about yet, you know, that has to do with mental health, boundaries, shielding, and some unique things to look for and that occur and what to do about that,
Yeah,
you know. Yeah.
interesting. So, getting into our list, and I asked these 8 questions to everybody that I interview, and they're welcome to skip over any they don't like or add ones they want to throw in. But these are my basics. And the first one I stole from Stephen Colbert, and that is, what do you think happens to you when you die?
I love that question. I've had some what I feel are personal experiences. I have lost my son, my mother, and now my husband. And each time, being the psychic that I am, the witch that I am, I know that we just go when we lose them, we mourn their physical presence, um, and grieve that, but we end up in a different relationship with them after, you know. Gods know I can hardly get my grandma to quit yapping at me, you know. But I think we go to what our perception of where we're going to is. Like my mom, she went to, and I know this again. It's a unverified personal gnosis, but um, she showed me that she went to a big family reunion. All the people that she had missed. She was the youngest of 10 people, of 10 kids, and she hated the fact that everybody had died, you know, ahead of her. And one of the places that I saw her in my astral travels and such after was a big family reunion. She went to other places after. My son uh, pretty much uh, went to what he was his happy place in a sense, you know. And Michael, wow, the most phenomenal thing. I've heard of this happening, but I saw him stand up from his body. He died here in this living room. I saw him stand up from his body, look at his body for a few minutes, and then sat down and looked at me, started chit chatting, and then said, "Well, time to go for my next job." And he went and did some spectral processing, I would assume, and came back because this was his happy place. And he's yet to kind of move from this happy place and finish doing whatever processing he has to do on the other side, you know. Uh, but so I think that's what we do. I think we initially go to that place that made us the most happy. And from there, then we've got other things to do as we process through the, you know, through that place.
That's interesting because I can't remember who said it. It reminded me of this quote where somebody said, "Wouldn't it be tragic to be on your deathbed and realize you failed to create a place to go?" And I thought, wow, that really resonates. So that has always stuck with me. So would you mind sharing what you think your happy place would be?
Oh, well, that's kind of a bucket list kind of question because it changes as you get older.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my happy place, there's a place up on the river. It's
Okay,
probably where my ashes will end up anyway. You know, that's where Michael's at.
got it. So, who in your life was especially influential to you in a positive way? Now, we all have people that influence us in a negative way. So I don't ever want to be that, or I don't want to cause anybody to feel that way. Who influenced you positively?
Well, when I was 16, let's see, do I have it up there? No. Um, a book influenced me and gave me my first confidence as a witch. And of course, my mom and my partners, but Phaedra Bonowitz, who still positively influences me in my life with her wonderful ways, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I can't say enough about what she's done for me, really. I mean, my book wouldn't exist without Phaedra. You and Phaedra and Oberon were the three, you know. Uh, and you have influenced me
Oh,
positively in many ways, and encouragement. And I still remember the day at the 2019 pagan Sacramento Pagan Pride. You and Phaedra were sitting there plotting my life. I'm like, wait, wait, wait! Don't I get it? And you're like, no.
Phaedra is one of the people that influenced me as well, because I was at, I want to say the 20, maybe 2015 or something like that, PantheaCon, and she was teaching. And it was some energetic class or something, but she was talking about circle dynamics. And I had been a high priestess for 25 years by then, probably leading covens and stuff.
Mhm.
And she talked about the importance of everybody in the circle holding the field, was the term she used. And that just blew my mind, because I always felt like, and this is ego talking, that I carried the circle myself and I was responsible for everything that happened. I had to make sure the energy was high. And, that's Virgo talk, but I really loved that she said that and gave agency to everybody in the circle. And that was really profound for me. And when she comes on the show, I'll tell her that.
Yeah, it was profound for me too in her teachings, um, because she mentored me for the longest time, and we're still just close friends. But having that knowledge that I'm not responsible for everything in the circle, but that I can assign energetic jobs to other people in the circle really made a difference. And my gosh, does it make a more cohesive group than ever? Because they feel like they too are participating, gives
And
them agency.
you really shouldn't be circling with people that you don't trust anyway.
Yeah.
And of course, trust is different than I trust you in perfect love and perfect trust. But there's also that level of I trust you that you are competent enough to hold the energy level with me. And I hadn't been willing to give out that power before. Even I think, and gosh, I'm embarrassed to even say this, with my priests, because I was always involved with my priests most of the time. So I knew their fuck ups, and I'm like, you're going to screw this up. I remember one time I was in a really massive Samhain ritual with one of my priests, and we were doing some Hecate work, and he came in and did an invocation, and he invoked Hecate. And Hecate came in, and Hecate's like, what the fuck did you just say? And got really offended at how the name had been pronounced. And I didn't
Mhm.
have a feeling about that, but let me tell you, she did. So that's where I got a little antsy.
Yeah, and then you have priests like Oberon Zell, who will, in the very last 5 minutes, choose his priestess and say, "You're it."
That was the Gerald Gardner handbook, wasn't it?
That's true. I've experienced it.
Yeah. Okay. You're out. You're in. Yep. That's an interesting thing, because I've known a lot of, and again, it's the Virgo planner thing in me, but I've known a lot of people who come up and say, will you invoke water this ritual? Will you invoke fire this ritual? What? We should, it's in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I need a week to
Oh,
prepare.
Phaedra does that too. I think it's
Does
an
she?
old school thing.
I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think you're right.
It's like, oh, you want to do this and be this in your life here, throw you off the raft, you're going to swim.
Yeah, exactly. Now you worked with Oberon a lot more than I did. He was really tangential for me. Um, and but you got a lot of experience working with Oberon. Do you have anything to say about that or
Oh, Oberon is wonderful and charming,
yeah,
and we all have our moments. And what's really interesting is watching the dynamic of Phaedra and Oberon together. They're like exes, but siblings, and their long-term relationship of knowing each other really comes to play. And so, like, when I was writing my book or anything thereafter, it's like I was the kid stuck in the middle.
Mama and Daddy are fighting.
Or have different opinions, whatever it is, so it made for quite the education, you know.
For sure.
And I'm just so happy for him that he has found Rhiannon and is back east where he wanted to be. I think that's fantastic.
For sure. You and I are of a generation that future generations will probably never experience, which is that time when there were very few pagan leaders and
Mm.
very few pagan authors. And so those particular that group of what, like 10 or 15 people become vital to you. And so much a part of your upline and your experience. And now there's this huge explosion of pagan and Wiccan and witchcraft writers that nobody really kind of gets that. I mean, I guess, there are a few that are especially popular, but that whole singularity that, I mean, I got excited when Scott Cunningham's sister held up my book and said, I like this book. I mean, that's how important those people were. And now they just don't have, I mean, even you and me, I mean, we're voices amongst thousands now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
So,
my situation was even more dire than that because I was sworn to secrecy for 50 years and told I could not seek anybody else out,
oh, yeah, for sure.
you know. And so it was a real boon to me at that time when I was allowed to come out going, what? There was all this during that time I was sworn to secret, like the witch school of witchcraft and a handful of other things. And Martello and Oberon and Selena and all of those were still out there. And I mean, they are still out there now. Um, they've faded in the mix and the plethora of people that is out there now, but they were very important influences to everything that went on. They are the foundations why I teach about them, and that's why my focus when it comes to pagan history is not on the old traditional stuff, but on American pagan history. What happened after Gardner? Who were those leaders? You know, Oberon didn't do it alone.
Well, you were actually um, connected really strongly to the Buckland Museum and the people that run that, and that was really one of my, I won't say envious moments, but go cat.
And that was the universe going plunk here, and so Oberon was living on the West Coast at the time. I talked him into going to the Eugene Pagan Pride, which is a small pride by star star starwood measures. Um, anyway, and we're there, and this gal whose partner had passed had an entire collection, 50 years of collection of pagan periodicals and magazines and so forth, and almost an entire collection of the Green Egg, which is Oberon's magazine. And she saw Oberon, and he had already made plans to move, and she started bringing this huge volume of stuff while he was up talking, and I was there. I was like, just put it in my van, you know. I kept one box out of green egg, and Oberon got to talk to her and this, that, and the other thing. And so when I got this mass volume of stuff at home, I'm surrounded in my office, surrounded by this plethora of the 50 years of pagan periodicals and history that I completely missed because of my vow of secrecy. And my husband didn't see me for months. But it was when I managed to get through some of it, and I picked up this paper, and it was written by Doreen Valiente in 1964. My hands started trembling. And I was like, it's like the Holy Grail, you know. And I was like, this doesn't belong to me. I can't keep this. This does not belong to me. It belongs to everybody. So I donated the bulk of everything to the Buckland Museum. Oberon got the few pieces that he wanted, and I kept a couple of pieces. But one of the fun things was that Llewellyn did the Gnostica newspaper, and to see Buckland and Oberon and uh, Isaac Bonowitz and Selena and these handful of people writing articles back and forth at each other.
Arguing, no doubt.
Little, you know. Most of the bold arguments occurred in the Green Egg Forum, Green Egg Magazine Forum, where I recall one person telling the other person to just shut the fuck up. I was like, oh, you know. So that was my connection to the Buckland Museum.
Yeah.
So
So we kind of got a sense of it, but what are you the most proud of in your life?
I am the most proud of being able to help people and seeing them pick up what they've been given and run with it and become. I am the most proud of my assistance in that process.
That's wonderful. So this is a lot lighter than the other things we've talked about. What TV show, movie, book are you into lately? There could be multiples.
Well, there are. Well, I'm currently into NYPD Blue. I like cop shows, and I will watch the whole series from beginning to end. And so I'm currently into NYPD Blue as far as TVs go. Um, Books, I mean, I've always got 3 or 4 books laying around. Right now, I've got 2 of Oberon's books and my own book because I was doing research on death and dying, his undiscovered country, and his guide to my future parents, Oberon's. And my book kind of were helpful in writing my last blog entry on reincarnation.
I got cut from that book. The the How to Raise a Magical Child, the guide, that one.
What'd you do?
I wrote this book on or this piece on. I'm trying to remember what it was about, but it was basically about being the weird kid,
Ah,
and what I would have liked to have had happen to foster that. And I sent it off as they said, and it was to the gal that co-wrote it with him, and I believe she said something back like thank you for your submission, blah blah blah. And then the book came out, and I'm all excited, and I wasn't in there, and so I just posted the piece on the blog, the Green Egg blog,
there
and,
you go.
and then Oberon messaged, and he goes, "What an amazing piece! I wish we had that for the book." And I'm like, "Yeah, Oz, I wish you had too."
You bugger.
He's like, "Well, I never saw that."
It happens.
It
I was
happened.
surprised. I was surprised that my reincarnation piece didn't end up in undiscovered country as opposed to future parents. because that's why I had it out. I thought that's where it ended up.
Yep. So, here's a good one. And I want you to include your blog in this. What would you like to promote?
Well, I'd like to promote love and compassion for everybody everywhere. Is the first thing that's in short supply. Um, and my website is getting a bit of additions. I'm not going to be writing a traditional book. I'm going to be putting the book on my website as lessons people can purchase. And so it'll kind of, I'm roughly, this is all out in outline and just in thought form at the moment. I think I'm going to do like one chapter at a time, then you get that, and then you go for the next one. Um, and I'm enjoying my blog. Uh, because I've had of Mike's death and deep depression and writer's block and this that I've sat down to write so many times and haven't been able to. And so just this last week I've been able to restart my blog. I was up doing a happy dance. It had me high. I had not taken or smoked anything and I was high. I was doing a happy dance with Mike in the middle of the living room the other day, you know, which felt amazing.
Now, on that
So
blog, you recently had an article you were telling me that um, that resulted in a comment that
yes,
really intrigued you.
I was so pleased that even though I've been away from my blog for quite a while, that I got some comments from my first entry within just hours. And one of them asked if I had ever posted my most challenging psychic experience. Now, that psychic experience is a little bit of a tearjerker. And it's currently on my blog. Um, and it's about reincarnation. I posted it just a couple days ago, and it was about the passing, what my family called the passing. And I'm 400 miles away from my grandmother, and astrally, as I'm sleeping, she came to me to let me know she was dying. And there was this big, long vision of things that occurred that told about her life. And so I'm feeling the knowledge of her dying, in addition to clairvoyantly and astrally getting all this information that she's trying to pass on to me about her personal life and her magical life and her magical knowledge. Uh, so yeah, it was quite challenging.
That's a lot. I want to, before we go on to the next part, I want to ask you about something. You wrote an article for the Green Egg blog that I really enjoyed and wanted to reference, and I will link that um, in the description of this video as well. You and I are both big proponents of something that is not appreciated by British traditional witchcraft,
Uh-oh, we're in trouble.
and that is the unverified personal gnosis. And I felt such kinship with you when I read that because it's something I've always promoted, but in a way I was uh, almost afraid to put it out there because of the derision that comes from that and the complete subjectivity
Uh-huh.
of that. And especially back in the old days on the internet where we had message boards, if you identified something as, I know this to be true because I had this experience, man, if you didn't have citation and if somebody before you didn't say it, or, it didn't have its place in history here, here, or here, it just wasn't valid. And so when you wrote that, and I do want you to talk about that just a little bit, if you don't mind, that just I just felt that heart connection when I read that because I thought, yes, yes, somebody else feels the same way.
And the interesting thing about it is that almost every, shall we say, solitary that I've ever encountered is like, yes, that is how I know you're real. That is how I know you're a real witch and you know what you know. And yet there is huge division about that in some of these more pragmatic types, shall we say, um, that keep us batting heads back and forth. That's why I am very conscientious about mentioning this is a UPG, you know, and this is what UPG means. And you'll see that in my book, you'll see that in my blog writings, and other things, because I understand that it's not something that has been validated and credited and yada, dada, 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 which you see me roll my eyes. That's exactly how I feel about that.
Yep.
And magic and psychism and witchcraft all happen in UPG. It's transgressive. They want it to be transgressive, but then they want to put all the nails and screws to it and make it so rigid,
You
you
know,
know?
Janet Farrar wrote a book called, oh gosh, brain. I want to say it was called Progressive Witchcraft. I was thinking you should write a book called Transgressive Witchcraft.
Yeah.
So, do you happen to have, since we're on the promotion question, can you show us your butt?
Ah,
Talk about that in a
absolutely.
little bit.
This little darling. It
Just
Mary,
want to say you deserved a better cover than that.
I actually like this cover.
Do you?
I do. It kind of reminds me of the Black Cat Firecracker.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Because what's inside is amazing. And I really recommend everybody checking that book out. And again, I'll post links down below so you can
Thank
look at
you.
that. And I'm sure
Thank
they
you.
can find it from your website as well.
Yeah, what I think I like most about my book is that it can be read all the way through, or it can be broke down into a study guide.
Now it's kind of a book of shadows construction, if I remember correctly.
Well, yes, it's all about psychic skills. You see, growing up, I kept trying to find myself, I guess, in all these books and wanted them to talk about something real, and they're all flowery and evasive and this and that. It got so frustrating, and that was the main thing about this book is that I want to label this for everybody. I want to put it all. I'm not real big on labels, but you have to have them as descriptors and identifiers. And I want to lay that out. And that's the biggest reaction I get from my book. Oh my God, I found myself in your book. You described me. That's what I'm after.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And there is that feeling of coming home and feeling seen and not so much like a freak when somebody else verifies, yeah, this is the kind of people and they do this. So, what, if anything, is on your bucket list now? A lot of people I talk to are in my cohort, and so a lot of us have already ticked off a good bit.
Right. Yeah.
We don't have 50 years ahead of us to accomplish stuff.
Right. Yeah. I think I'd like to go to Disneyland. I haven't been. Uh, as far as, let's say, a personal bucket list. Uh, and yeah, it changes as you get older because right now, all I want to do is take care of my property and my community and my family, and have a good golden years. That's pretty much it.
Same. Same. We'll buy one bucket list and share it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't
So
be surprised if you get a half a bucket in the mail.
that works. Like I have a bucket. So what is your favorite part of the day?
Oh, the mornings. You just wake up, you're comfortable, the bed's warm, you got your critter next to you or whatever, and or your
Made
loved
it through
one.
another night alive.
Yeah. And, if you sleep with the critter in the bed, they're always so happy to wake up with you or whatever. And so that's nice. And then I go straight to my meditation chair. It's a practice I've done for quite a long time because you're half asleep, you're still somewhat in that altered state. And sometimes I'll lay in bed and ruminate in that state. But I like it. Phaedra was kind of the one, don't lay there and go back to sleep. Get up and get your butt in the chair. And it makes a difference as to what you receive in exchange. But it just gives sitting in front of my altar for those few minutes or however long it happens to be really grounds my day. Sitting in, because I always light a candle. That's a thing from my mom. Um, that's how you set your location to her, you know, and what brings you back if you travel. So there's always a candle lit, and uh, sitting in the chair is a Phaedra thing, and it really grounds me and sets my day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a great start to the day. So, is there anyone in particular, and I know that you and I are both doing this in a general way, and it's very important to both of us. Is there anyone in particular that, including yourself, that to whom you would really like to send some love and compassion and, um, I guess, I see you acknowledgement?
Well, that last little bit changed the answer just a smidge. The acknowledgement of who I see are two people. Phaedra Bonowitz, I see you. I see all that you are and have been, and still are, even though your publicness is not what it used to be. And my best friend Heidi Sapper, who's been there with me through it all for the last 15 years, even married me and Mike. So that's who I would like to say I see. As for who I would like to send love out to, I kind of hit on it earlier, but I would like to hit the world with a plague of compassion and love and understanding.
I
I
love it.
mean, if I have to make that a curse, fine. I'll go there, but there's just so little of it in the world right now, and it will make a difference. Just even those little tiniest things that you can do on a daily basis.
I completely, completely agree with that. So let's do that. Let's take just a moment, make sure we're nice and settled in our bodies, at least for the moment. Take a few deep breaths. Feel the earth beneath us, nourishing us, about to bring us an abundant harvest to finish off the year, about to take us into the dark of the year where it'll hold us safely through the winter so that we can contemplate and plan and give thanks and combine that with the energy of the sun above and the moon that transits across the sky even when we can't see it, those divine celestial beings, God and Goddess, that fuel us from above and let those move into our body and link hands and start to join with one another along about our solar plexus, rolling together in one big ephemeral yin and yang. And within that yin and yang, each one has a spot of the other one. And we are going to feel our heart chakra and our solar plexus chakra get infused with them from above, from below, all those blessings coming to us from the north, the south, the east, and the west, all the elements blessing us and filling us up with sublime, supreme, sacred love, the love that cannot be defined by humans because it's so great. And then we're going to push it out to those people. And we're going to let it infuse. And we can see it almost like it's bringing color onto a black and white canvas and illuminating everything as though a barren wasteland is popping up with flowers and trees and greenery and a beautiful sun presentation across the horizon. And everything's waking up. It's waking up. It's coming back through the power of love and compassion. And let's say it's some joy and connectedness. And we just stream that out to everybody and let them know that that can be a way of being. We're going to take a few seconds to do that. You can feel it in the palms of your hands. You can feel it in the top of your head. You can feel it at the base of your body. You can feel it circulating all through you as you channel it and send it straight out into the world. And then we're going to take a few more breaths and make our own energy still again, retaining some of that for ourselves. Because let's face it, you got to put the mask on yourself first before you can help anybody on that plane. Deep breaths. And just feel that energy rolling outward as it touches one person and they wake up and feel a little bit of, wow, I feel better. And then they're smiling at the clerk at the grocery store who says, I was having such a bad day and that feels so good.
Right.
And then somebody behind them pays for the person in front of them that couldn't afford the milk they were getting that day. And it just becomes this domino effect of goodness and kindness out there in the world. So
Ripples
be
in
it.
the pond. So be it. Ripples in the pond.
That's
Yeah.
right. Do you have anything you would like to add?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, no. Well, yes. Be proud of yourself for your accomplishments. Give yourself credit. This is not just about giving to others, but like Katrina mentioned, you have to give to yourself too in order to have things to give. So be proud of your own accomplishments.
Humility has its place. But I would also say that being accurately assessing, to accurately assess your ability level and what you bring to the world is just as important.
It sure is.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being with me, Kat. I appreciate it. This is making me miss that idea we had for a podcast of two cats in a cauldron. And we had that great graphic too.
Yeah.
But this was a lot of fun. Thank you for doing this. And folks, if you have questions for Kat or comments on anything we said, we're very responsive in the comments and we'd like to hear from you. These old ladies just love to hear what other people out there in the world are saying. So
Yes, we actually want your opinion.
thanks for being here, Kat, and thanks for being here, everybody. And with that, we're going to say goodbye. So thanks so much.
Blessed be.
Blessed be. Bye-bye.